لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك وصل اللهم عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن اهتدى بهديه واتبع سنته واقتفى أثره بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فإن الله سبحانه وتعالى قد تمم هذا الدين، وآخر ما أنزل على نبيه المصطفى صلى الله عليه وسلم: اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. Allah the Almighty mentioned in the Quran, the last verse which He revealed upon Muhammad, peace be upon him: this day I have perfected for you your religion, bestowed my favors upon you, accepted for you Islam as your religion, as a way of life. So in this very verse, or actually it's part of a verse, Allah the Almighty is mentioning here that the message has been completed, and the prophethood and the messengerhood has been sealed by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So without doubt, Islam is the final message, and without doubt, Islam is the perfect message. And if we were to look and understand why it's the most perfect religion, there are many scholars who commented on this very verse, elaborated on it thoroughly, and they came up with many things. One of the most important things I'll talk about today, inshallah ta'ala, the aims of the Sharia, the aim of the religion. What's the purpose behind the message? They summarized it in 5 things. They said Sharia has been sent to deal with mainly 5 things. The first one, preservation of religion, which we call حفظ الدين. And the second one, preservation of human life, حفظ النفوس. And the third one is preservation of nasab, lineage or chastity or family relations. The fourth one is about protection of wealth, حفظ المال. And the fifth one is about حفظ العقل, preservation and protection for humans' intellect and humans' mind and brain. So the whole Sharia, Islam, all of it is serving these 5 things. Almost all the rulings which we have, serving these 5 pillars. So in the first one, preservation of religion, or sometimes you might call it freedom of religion, freedom of choice. You are not allowed to force people to be Muslims. As Allah stated in Surah Yunus, أَفَأَنْتَ تُكْرِهُ النَّاسَ حَتَّى يَكُونُوا مُؤْمِنِينَ? Are you going to force people in order to make them believers? And in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, لَا إِكْرَاهَ فِي الدِّينِ. There's no compulsion in religion. You cannot force people to be Muslims or believers. So you have freedom of choice. Although we don't want to misunderstand this or misinterpret it, this very verse, that yes, it is accepted to be non-Muslim. This is a different story. Allah stated in the Quran, إِنَّ الدِّينَ عَنْدَ اللَّهِ Islam. Verily, the accepted religion before Allah Azza wa Jal is Islam. Yes, but this does not mean we do not have other religions, because we are responsible for our choices. Allah Azza wa Jal has given people the freedom of choice. He accepted Islam, the way of life. He accepted Islam, the religion. He encouraged people to choose this, but it's up to them. They want to choose Islam, they'll be rewarded. If they do not want, then they'll be punished. So we are responsible for our choices, and this is the most important. So we cannot force people. So we respect the people's choices. We disagree with them, and we might agree with them, depends on the case, but nevertheless we respect their choices, even if we disagree with them. On the second point, protection of human life. The Prophet ﷺ, in the final sermon, in the final khutbah which he delivered in Arafah ﷺ, where he received this very last verse, الْيَوْمَ أَكْمَلْتُ لَكُمْ دِينَكُمْ, this day I have perfected for you your religion. On that very day, he delivered a very beautiful, long speech, which we call it the farewell speech and the farewell pilgrimage. He said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, amongst many things, he said, إِنَّ دِمَاءَكُمْ وَأَمْوَالَكُمْ وَأَعْرَاضَكُمْ حَرَامٌ عَلَيْكُمْ كَحُرْمَةِ يَوْمِكُمْ هَذَا فِي بَلَدِكُمْ هَذَا فِي شَهْرِكُمْ هَذَا. Indeed, your lives, your honor, your blood is forbidden amongst you and sacred, similarly to the sanctity of this month, of this city, of this day. So he made it very clear, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that it is forbidden to shed the blood. It is forbidden to kill. And for this very reason, we can see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the limits and the hudud and the punishment to protect these pillars. What we call the capital punishment for someone who committed the crime of killing. It's not because Islam wants to revenge and Islam likes to shed the blood. No, actually not. It's the opposite. It's totally the opposite. Islam wants to deter people from committing the crime of killing, from overstepping the limits. For that reason, from the outset you can see it's a harsh punishment, but nevertheless, the safety of the community is more important than the individual. We cannot sacrifice the whole community for the individual. So we have to choose. And there is no in-between. And we have seen actually the in-between solutions. It took us to the riots which we can see earlier in this country. There is no middle solution. So the Sharia is saying this is the punishment to deter people. Now I'm not saying or suggesting that we apply this in this country. this is not the question. This is not the case, because it's not an Islamic country. What I'm saying here that the concept of protection of human life and deterring people from committing crimes, it's been punished in Islam by capital punishment. And the third point, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, it is not allowed to take your brother's money without his consent. So it is forbidden, as Allah stated in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَلَا تَأْكُلُوا أَمْوَالَكُمْ بَيْنَكُمْ بِالْبَاطِلِ. Do not eat your money amongst you in falsehoods. So the protection of wealth is guaranteed from Islamic point of view. Islam is not against wealth, as many people might think. No. If we were to see the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, many of them amongst the tens who has been promised paradise were around 5 or 6 very rich companions. Islam is not about being poor or supporting poverty. No, actually Islam is about eliminating poverty. It's about encouraging people to be productive. It's about to increase your investments in the halal way. And this is why we have the zakah on the other side, eating from your money, so to say, although it's increasing your money by the barakah which Allah puts in it. But it is a way of encouragement to go and invest your money, otherwise the sadaqah will eat it. So preservation for wealth. So whether it's a public wealth or private wealth, it's the same. Even if it's a public wealth, it's guaranteed Islamically to be protected and preserved. And we've seen as well punishment for somebody who's overstepping the limits and committing a crime against private wealth or public wealth. And it varies, depends on the case, depends on the scenario which we have. But nevertheless, we can see that Islam guaranteed for people to have their wealth and encourage them, of course, to purify their wealth by paying the obligations from the zakah and from the sadaqah, which is a charitable thing additional to the zakah. And the fourth point is about protection of the lineage or the protection of chastity. And nasab or al-ird, which we call, it is guaranteed. Anyone who is overstepping the limit, committing any crime against chastity, there is a punishment for him or her. I don't want to go to the details of the applications of the punishment, but there is a punishment, lashing 100 lashes or stoning to death, depends on the scenario which we have. Oh wow, it's a very cruel punishment. It's a very severe punishment. But if you were to look at the threat which we have in this country, for instance, we are unfortunately number one in young age pregnancy amongst youngsters in whole Europe. I wish we have number one in economy. I wish we have number one in production. I wish that we are number one in the railway system or the underground system or something else. But unfortunately, in this very point, we are number one in underage pregnancy. So from Islamic point of view, anyone who's committing something like that, there's a not capital punishment, I would say, severe punishment. Of course, in order to apply this, you need plenty of conditions and things to be in place to apply. But the threat in the punishment itself, it's enough to make people terrified from committing adultery or fornication. It's not just for adultery and fornication there's a punishment. No, as well, spreading falsehood rumors about X, Y, and Z, there is a punishment, which we call qadf. Spreading rumors, bad rumors about a person, about his family, about his honor, about his chastity, there is a punishment for that. And by the way, I'm not interested in talking about punishment, but this is just to give an overview about the protection for the human being and everything related to his community, to his family, to his honor, to his chastity, to his wealth. You can see it's all about living in peace and spreading peace and making people tranquil in their life as much as we could. Of course, we are not and we cannot live in an angelic society. There's no angelic society. Even the companion society was not an angelic society. It was a human society blessed by the Prophet's presence sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the descendants of the Quran amongst them. So there is no angelic society on earth, just to be very clear. But we need to aim high. We need to follow the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ. And the fifth point is about protection of the human intellect or the human mind. And this is why intoxication was forbidden, because it is an offense against the human intellect and the human control. This is why we have punishment here. It is threatening your existence as a human, and let alone how much we pay every year from our taxes to rehabilitation, to treating alcoholism, to treat the social problems which comes out from addiction and so on and so forth, and let alone the accidents which we have from intoxications and binge drinking and this and that. So we have, a couple of years ago, the NHS revealed the annual report about how much they pay for this department in particular. It was about 6 billion, believe it or not, excluding the social effect, excluding the, if you want, effect on the work and productivity next day or for some days to come. So we are losing in a lose-lose situation. And this is why we see that Islam is about protection for your dignity, actually. And if you were to overstep the limits and go against this, you should be punished. So we can see the importance then of these 5 aims of the Sharia, or maqasid al-Sharia, which we call it. Protection of the deen, freedom of choice, protection of the sanctity of the blood, protection of the wealth, protection of lineage and chastity, and protection of human mind. And if we were to understand this and apply it in our life, we can see the improvement. We can see the peace spreading from our hearts to the people's hearts around us, because we are following the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and shunning away from the prohibitions and following the footsteps of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enable us to understand the aims of the Sharia and to follow the aims of the Sharia, and to apply the aims of the Sharia in our lives. Ameen. Ameen. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على النبي المصطفى وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم. أما بعد, today there are many mosques agreed upon doing a special dua for our brothers and sisters in Somalia because of the situation which we can see unfortunately before our eyes on the screens. And this is part of our connection with our ummah and our duty towards our ummah, at least to make supplication for them. They will pray in Somalia today, inshallah, Salatul Istisqa. And we will make, inshallah, dua for them, at least to support them and ask Allah Azza wa Jal to send mercy from the heavens to them and to send them the relief from Him. اللهم يا رب يا رحمن يا بديع السماوات والأرض يا ذا الجلال والإكرام يا حي يا قيوم يا حي يا قيوم. اللهم أغث إخواننا في الصومال. اللهم إنا نسألك الغياث يا رب العالمين. اللهم أغثهم يا رب العالمين. اللهم أغثهم يا رب العالمين. اللهم أنزل عليهم من بركات السماء. اللهم غيثا طيبا مباركا يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اسق البلاد والعباد. اللهم اسق البلاد والعباد. اللهم اسق البلاد والعباد. اللهم انزل عليهم من بركاتك. اللهم انزل عليهم من رحماتك. اللهم انزل عليهم من بركاتك. اللهم انزل عليهم من رحماتك. اللهم يا ارحم الراحمين كن مع الاطفال والارامل واليتامى والرضع والمساكين يا رب العالمين. اللهم كن مع العجائز والضعفاء يا الله. اللهم انزل عليهم مطرا عاما سحا غدقا طبقا مباركا يا ارحم الراحمين. اللهم يا الله يا الله اسق البلاد والعباد. اللهم اسقهم يا الله. اللهم اسقهم من بركات السماء. اللهم اسقهم من بركات السماء يا رب السماء يا الله. يا رب السماء يا الله. اللهم بك نستغيث يا الله. غوثا يا الله. غوثا يا الله. غياثك يا رب العالمين. ما لنا سواك يا الله يا الله. اللهم اغثهم يا الله. اللهم اغثهم يا الله. اللهم اغثهم يا الله. يا حي يا قيوم. يا حي يا قيوم. برحمتك نستغيث يا الله. برحمتك نستغيث يا الله. يا رب العالمين اغفر لنا وارحمنا وسامحنا وعافنا واعف عنا من شر انفسنا وخلقك سلمنا. اهدنا اليك ودلنا بك عليك ولا تجعل حوائجنا الا اليك. اللهم اغفر لنا ولوالدينا ولمن علمنا ولمن له حق علينا ولمن احسن الينا ولمن اسانا اليك ولمن أحبنا فيك وأحببناه فيك. وصلي وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. عباد الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم واشكروه على نعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. قوموا إلى صلاتكم يرحمكم الله. اقتربوا إلى الأمام.